And I can't think of a better way to finish People Matters Take a Chair than with you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here. I just hope at the end of this, I've actually been able to add some value, but I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Wonderful. And if you can think of somebody who has rethought what's possible, you know, there's some few people that come to your mind, right? And rethinking what's possible is this year's theme. And when you look at your career, the way that you have created different versions of yourself, you are a living example of rethinking what's possible. And that's what we want to learn from you today. So we're going to talk about purpose. We're going to talk about creativity and curiosity. We're going to talk about learning from failure. And we're also going to talk about Ranveer as a people leader, as an entrepreneur, and what can we learn from him. But I'm going to be coming to the audience on and off with your permission, because then we don't leave the questions for the end. So just be ready. Ready? Pakka? Okay. So let's start with purpose. So all that the work, and there's a very beautiful quote I heard you saying that the subject chooses the disciple. And I really love that, because I think in a way that purpose finds you. So tell us a little bit about that, and how can we, some of us are still finding that purpose, or maybe trying to discover it. So how do we find, or how does the purpose find us?
You know, so the person who I learned work from is an illiterate gentleman. And very good, obviously very good chef. Munir Ustad was his name. And he used to look at somebody and says, "Ye bawarchi banega. He's going to make a good chef." And like, how do you know? And he used to say, well, you know, we think that we don't know what we are born for, but food is always looking out for you. You know, the medium is always looking out for the right disciples to show and shine. And I think that once you have, for that you need belief in the medium, that it's powerful enough to find its own disciples. And for that you need to understand that you will then need to believe that your medium's actually alive. And it's actually alive and breathing. And I think that's the trick. The trick is to build to have a relationship with the medium where you actually believe it's alive and breathing and powerful enough to find people to express itself. And that's the trick.
And is it an aha moment, or is it something that keeps manifesting until you suddenly surrender to it?
Well, for me, I believe that most of these moments are aha moments. You know, I always say we are all nothing but just a bunch of popcorns in a microwave. There's a time that we'll pop. You know, and it's always building up to that. And when we pop, we're like, aha, you know. So that's how it is. I think that's how life is. It's always building us to reach that point where we pop, and then we can never become the kernel again.
Yeah.
Now we are popcorn.
How beautiful. How beautiful is that? No? Big round of applause for that.
I
We're all
think
popcorn popping.
It's easy to sort of bring food in the conversation and make people, I got it now.
I got it now. I got it now. So in that journey of discovery, there is a very nice a quote that I've also heard you say about curiosity. And you said that curiosity is the first step for any adventure. So take us through some of those examples where there was something that popped and created that curiosity and took you to an adventure. Which one will you share with us today?
Sure. I think I'll sort of build to it. And considering the fact that we are all like-minded people, we are people sitting here. I think the broader premise for curiosity is unreasonability, right? And when we talk about unreasonability, it is basically believing what others feel doesn't exist exists, which means that being unreasonable means standing out as somebody different who believes in something that others don't. And I think that requires either extreme conviction, or it requires mentorship, or it requires an atmosphere to be created in which the black sheep are actually supported. Unreasonable people who tend to tell you That's not how it should be. It should be supported. And I think curiosity is just an outcome of that.
Yeah.
All of us, when we were growing up, we had 100 questions. Unfortunately, 95 always got shot down.
Yeah.
You know, and then we were left with 5. And then, you know, so 95% of our questions always got shot down. So the scale of curiosity with time brings us back to normalizing, rationalizing, finding a reason to agree to what is going on. I think it's about creating a culture of mentorship for unreasonability.
Yeah.
That should happen first. Curiosity is purely an outcome of letting people be. You know, because otherwise what will happen is, to be curious and unreasonable, you'd have to be extremely stubborn to say, no, no, this is not how it should be. There's probably another way to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and when you say there's another way to do this, there are not too many red flags hopefully standing, because if they are, then you need to be even more stubborn to say that they're... So I think curiosity comes with questioning what's normal, questioning reason, finding another way to do it, and that either requires you to be extremely stubborn. I call it requires the Punjabi zid and basharmi. You know, it requires you to be stubborn and shameless to be curious, or it requires people around you to create that culture where stubbornness and shamelessness is seen as a virtue, where being a black sheep and questioning the normal is seen as normal and not an aberration to a normal.
Yeah, yeah, and I love you mentioned the word stubbornness, because I've heard you say that stubborn makes you responsible for your decisions. And I want you to comment on that, because sometimes, you know, we also feel frustrated when somebody is very stubborn, but I love your definition of stubbornness is different. Your definition of stubbornness is about taking ownership for what you're fighting for, whether it's successful or not.
No, I think it's a very Punjabi dad way of looking at things. You know, if you go to a Punjabi dad and you say, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm stubborn about it, he's like, okay, don't come back to me after that. Now it's your problem. So I think that's essentially what it is. You know, your choice comes with the responsibility. A staunch choice comes with a stiffer responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I think, like we talk about zid and basharmi, or stubbornness and shamelessness. Stubbornness, the other side that we don't talk about is responsibility, right?
Correct.
If you're stubborn about something and you've taken on the world, then you're responsible to the world to deliver it.
Yes.
You know? And when we talk about shamelessness, or just the ability to shamelessly put yourself out there, then there's also, on the other side, there is a responsibility of integrity.
Yes.
Saying, if I have a position and I believe in expression, then I'm also responsible for that expression.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ranveer. When we applause strong, with zeal. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So if I can see some hands up for questions, if we can get the mics ready, and I'm going to ask you a question while we get the mics ready. And it's about failure. So sometimes you may be stubborn, you take responsibility, but you fail. And you are somebody who have had the privilege to fail. And I say privilege because you always talk about failures, and I love your comment about you look forward to your next failure. And I don't recall many leaders who say, I look forward to fail again. It's quite of a big statement. So tell us a little bit about how do you see failure as a way of developing yourself and becoming yourself better?
So when I was growing up, you know, I got success pretty early. At 25, I was an executive chef right here in Delhi. I was making more money than most 40-year-old executive chefs. I was the third highest paid executive chef in the country. And, you know, whatever restaurants you're opening or touching, you know, it's like whatever you're touching is turning into gold. There was no end. My plane wouldn't land, you know. And then I moved to the US, opened a restaurant, got, you know, recognized by the mayor of Boston. We were the best new restaurant. I was the new kid on the block, and the recession hit. After a year and a half, we had to shut it down. So we filed for bankruptcy. I was out on the streets. And that was for the first time when I was 28 that I actually learned what failure is. And what I'm really grateful for, that it was that I sort of kept falling.
Yeah.
And then I realized that this probably is rock bottom.
Yeah.
Because when you're at the rock bottom, then you realize now you can't go down any further, right?
Yeah.
And at that point in time, the only place you can go is up. So I think it's very important. Failure gives you that belief कि इससे ज़्यादा क्या होगा अब? You know, I'm sorry, but there's always a Punjabi way of saying things, right? So what else will happen now? I mean, this is rock bottom, right? Now where else can I go? I'll only go up.
What worse can it be?
Yeah, well, how worse can it be? So, I'm sleeping for 13 days on, on the streets with my dog. And क्या होगा इससे ज़्यादा मतलब? I have no money in my bank. The landlords kicked me out. क्या होगा इससे ज़्यादा? What else can happen? I think it gives you, and that is trust me, it is a very powerful place to be. And that I think is the purpose of failure, is to make you realize, one, what is the worst that can happen? And if this is the worst that can happen, I'm definitely better than this. And two, failure is also the time when you actually, after some years, realize who rallied around you at that point in time. Failure is also a time when, which is a measure of your human resource karma, as I like to say. This time when I was out, down and out, I got calls from people who wouldn't. I'd hired somebody as an executive chef in Delhi sometimes. The guy got promoted. He moved to Singapore. He suddenly chose to find my number and give me a call. He didn't know what I was going through. Yeah. Or somebody whose son I'd hired as an apprentice, and his son had now moved to the US, and so on and so forth. I got random calls from people which made me believe, saying, hey, you're not that bad. Yeah. You did all right. Yeah. You have this set of people and I think that is also a time when you realize that the real currency that lifts you up in times of failure is people. Yeah. And I'd like to call it.
Thank you.
And most of these people were stuff that I'd done and forgotten about.
Yeah.
So these are not people that were on top shelf. These were people that you're doing something, because it's a small thing. Hiring an apprentice for an executive chef at a 3-star hotel. You hire so many apprentices. But then imagine that has to come back one day in your life to tell you that you're better than the situation. Yeah. And that, I think, is the power and beauty of what you guys do. And that's the power and beauty of people. Because and it's good. And like I said, I look forward to the next failure. Because I look forward to that string being sort of, that it just takes me back to saying, it just gets you ready for life, and that's essentially what it is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ranveer. All right, so let's hear from the audience. You have a mic. Go ahead. Just quickly introduce yourself. I'll take 2 or 3 at a time. Are you comfortable? Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Anjali.
I met Ranveer probably 7-8 years back. First month in college, I participated in a cooking contest in Symbiosis. He was judging it.
Oh.
And it was my first month in college. And guess what he said to me? छोड़ दो जो कर रहे हो आप खाना बनाओ. Of course, I did not do that. I went ahead. I did get educated in what I was getting educated in. I did my master's, everything. 8 years later, I'm standing here. I own a food brand called Globerg. And that is what I'm looking for HR Tech Solutions for.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, like you said, subject chooses its disciples. And like your Ustad said, aap bawarchi banoge, you said that to me, and that's what I became.
Awesome.
So things have come full circle for me. I have a picture of both of us from that day, and if possible, I would like to get one today.
Thank you so much, Anjali.
See, this is exactly what I was talking about. I wouldn't have remembered her. That's the beauty of people. That's how suddenly, someday, somebody's going to just make your day. Somebody's going to make your week. Somebody's going to make you believe that what you're doing is the right thing. That's the power of the karma of people. You call it HR, I call it people karma. That's the only difference.
My question to you is how you resonate your personal instinct with the spices to create a signature dish for people and make it, signature dish for all of them, different generations.
Very nice. All right. Thank you. Can we have the mic this side?
So I think we're going to touch upon
All
it
right, go
when we
ahead.
talk about
Yes,
the
Ranveer.
evolution of all of us as professionals, right? I think when we start off in our life journeys or professional journeys, we are chasing the profession, and at some point in time, we stop chasing, right? And we realize that it was never meant to be chased in the first place. The profession or the medium that we were into was supposed to be, you were supposed to stand there and let it come to you, right? And then in those 10, 15, 20 years of us being in that profession and medium, we find ourselves in that medium. So I think after 26 years of cooking, I'd like to say that I've started finding myself in food. And when you're finding yourself in food, you're probably the most present when you're cooking. And when you are the most present, you're the most aware, you're nothing but a human being. And when you're nothing but a human being, you've removed all your biases, your age, you're just reacting with your senses to what is going on. And what you create then connects to a human being at a human being level. I think that's the broader and bigger answer to, you call it self-expression, self-actualization is a really big word. But I think the ability to stand in your profession, let it come to you, and then just be able to remove all biases, express yourself as a human being in your profession, allows your creation to connect to people at a level that's beyond, again, beyond biases.
Big fan. I love you.
Thank you, sir. Love you too.
Love you too. Watching your videos really ignited my passion to cook again. And really, when I saw this agenda, I had to be here. So huge respect. You are my guru.
Oh.
Now, I really want to take you home. and really get you to taste the food that you teach us and really mentor, So that's the respect that I have for you.
Wow.
So firstly.
Wonderful.
Now,
Thank you.
Now, for the question, to make it on the lighter side, we are all in HR, and you are a chef and a master chef, sorry. What ingredient the HRs would be in your kitchen? Or what dish would be HR be in the kitchen of yours? I hope you get the question that I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it's more of an equipment.
Thank you.
HR would probably be an Imam Dasta or something. Where everything just goes in and, I call it the wax on, wax off moment from Karate Kid, right? So where you really don't know what's happening, but something's happening, and in the end, you realize that you are better. Imam Dasta is one such thing. You put all the ingredients and you feel they're being smashed, but they're actually being made better.
So hi Ranveer, my quick introduction. I'm leading talent acquisition for Japanese multinational Takeda. I have one question. When you mentioned the failure, what's the biggest learning or a lesson from that failure which you have seen in the past, being a third highest paid chef, and how you overcome with that failure? I think everybody want to hear this. How did you manage that failure? Because a lot of people, when they reaches to the top level, they see those kind of failure, they will not able to cope up.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
what suggestion you want to share with all HR professionals are here?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so what worked for me, I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but I'm just, like I said, I have a very peculiar way of thinking. There are two things. Let's break it down into three. Three always works better. One is, when you're on top, just refuse to believe that you're on top. Just close your eyes when everybody talks about you being on top. Just believe that they're lying. You have to vehemently believe that you're not on top and there's a lot of game left. Yeah. That's one. Because if you're on top, falling down hurts. But if you're not on top in your head, there's no fear of falling down. That's one. One thing that I've learned. Two, invest in people, and I keep saying the same thing. Invest in people, because eventually people, I'll give you another very small, we have time, right?
Yeah, of course. we
I'll
do.
give you another very small example.
We can be with Ranveer the whole evening, isn't it? No problem. We have lots of time.
So I walked into Boston and I was walking by a small restaurant. My restaurant hadn't opened yet. And I see this Indian looking guy yelling abuses in Italian. And full on Italian mein maa behan kar raha tha wo. And I got very curious. And then he stopped and somebody called him and he started yelling abuses in Punjabi. So I was like, I have to go in and say hi to this guy. Right? I walked into the restaurant under construction. I said, Paji, ki haal hai? He said, Paji, fantastic. And then he started asking me about wine. Without even asking my name or whatever. He said, so what do you think about a Chianti? What do you think about a good Montepulciano? What do you think would go with like a nice roast? A deep dark Barolo? And I just said whatever I could. And in the end, we just exchanged numbers. And I said, Paji, fantastic meeting you. And he called me in 5 minutes saying, oh, Paji, sorry, garbad ho gayi. I thought you were a Somalier who was coming for interview. The Somalier came after you. So who are you? So I said, you know what? I'm opening a restaurant like 2 blocks from yours. It's going to take some time. And then we became friends, and I helped him open a restaurant. Now, this gentleman was somebody who jumped ship when he was 11, worked in Holland, worked in Italy as an Italian chef, come to the US wearing a Teda turban as on an Afghani passport, and then gotten his way into the system. And now, in his head, he was Italian because he just left India when he was 11. And now he was opening an Italian restaurant in the mafioso neighborhood of Italy, assuming everything's going to be fine because he's Italian in his head. And I helped him open the restaurant. The day of the opening, I was in his kitchen. The next morning, no staff showed up. The people around were saying nothing to guests. They would not allow the staff to show up. The vendors would show up, they would drop their stuff. It was 3 people in that restaurant. Shingara Paji, his Italian name's Peppino, me, and 1 dishwasher. We ran that restaurant like that for 9 days. We did not leave the restaurant. We ran that restaurant like that. Again, I did it for fun and for zid. Right? And the 10th day, they reached a compromise with the locals, and sort of the restaurant came back to normal. But we did not let the restaurant shut down, just the 3 of us. We used to shower there and we used to cook there, and we'll talk about that later. But now when I am down in the dumps, 13 days we cut back to my bit. I'm sleeping on the streets. 14th day, this guy wakes me up in the morning. He says, come home. And he was looking for me because the restaurant had shut down. We did a menu in his restaurant called the Sibling Rivalry, where every dish had 2 faces. One was his version, one was my version. That became a phenomenon.
Wow.
Now we own 5 restaurants together. We're opening 2 more. Wow. We just signed up for 2 more.
Wow, so beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
the case in the point being, people matter, right? That's what it is. It's people who will bring you out. Believe in people in good times, because those people are going to bring you back to where you were in times that aren't so good. That's part number 2, coming back to the failure bit. The third thing that I've learned, and I still sort of try and stick to, is don't work for success or failure. I think the whole game, the whole disappointment of loss is when you're seeking profit. Find a bigger purpose. Find a purpose that is bigger and that's not tangible. And usually, happiness fits right there. Because nobody can take that away. And that's what I've learned. I've learned if I chase numbers, if I chase tangibility, there's always the dark side to it. If I chase happiness in whatever I'm doing, I'm playing a game that doesn't involve failure. So 3 things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Go ahead. 1, 2, 3. I'm doing ping pong, so then nobody tells me that you've been biased. Go ahead, please.
Ranveer, first of all, you're a brilliant storyteller, especially around power of connections. I'm really going to take all those stories back home and I'm going to share it with my family, with my friends. We are really blessed. Thank you very much. And no surprise that this is the closing note, you know. So my question to you is, and it's slightly different, someone who's been doling out dishes after dishes, amazing, tasty, scrumptious, amazing dishes. How do you keep yourself so fit and keep yourself away from all the junk?
There's a lot of genuinity there. We really want to know that.
This is the most passionately somebody's asked me this question. I've obviously been asked this question many times, but this is like, how do you keep yourself away? I'll tell you, it's very simple, right? And the answer lies to how our body is built. You know, we have 30 odd feet of intestines and digestive system, and we have 2.5 inches of something called the tongue, right? The answer is there. Choose what you eat for. Do you eat, if you let 2.5 inches decide what your life is going to be, then those 30 feet are going to suffer, right? You have to give. So that's one, you know, taste everything, eat nothing. Also remember that food is a medium for senses, not just the stomach. And senses and sensory satisfaction can be had with 2 spoons. After that is just greed. Right? That's part 1. 2, I think all of us have to find one way of communicating with our body. For me, it's Kalarippayattu, the Kerala martial art. I'm a very regular follower of the discipline. Recently, I spent 10 days in Pondicherry doing a refresher course. But we have to find one way of talking to our physical being, whether it's yoga, whether it's Kalarippayattu, whether it's that half an hour in the gym, 40 minutes on the cross trainer, whatever that is. The time when you communicate with your body, when you listen to it, when it talks back to you, I think that's very important. Just between these two, I think we're good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Now I'm coming to this side. Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, Ranveer. I'm Ritu, and I'm a great fan of yours. Just one question. In this interactive session, what is that secret one-liner which will we say after that? Ranveer, आपने बताया नहीं और आप कहोगे Ranveer मैंने बताया था Ranveer ने. So that one secret liner. Thank you.
I think रणवीर सब बता देगा वैसे. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि आप बट प्रॉब्लम वही होती है रणवीर सब बताए थे लोग फिर भी कहते हैं कि रणवीर आपने बताया. Now that is something that sort of, so what happened was when I used to do a lot of television and food videos, and every time I used to read the comments, people were like, oh, but you didn't tell us this, but you didn't tell us this. And so eventually I just started saying it as is in the video, saying, listen, this is what it is, I'm telling you this. Don't tell me later I didn't tell you this. And that sort of caught on. So that's what the conversation was about.
I totally missed that one, but good. Thank you so much for sharing. Awesome. Let's go to this side. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Aster, and hi, Ranveer. A big fan moment. And Aster, sorry, I'm taking this moment. I don't have a question, but I really want to say something to Ranveer.
Go ahead.
I've worked in the media. I've worked with, having worked with a lot of movies, interviewing Bollywood, but I really never said that I'm a fan of anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not a great cook, and my family will thank Ranveer because I fed them decent enough food during the pandemic, thanks to your videos.
Who agrees to that?
But more than cooking, one thing that I really want to say, you keep saying that, it's about people. And I think it's about your words, what you speak. Probably you don't remember the people, but those words that you leave behind is what really leaves a mark on someone else. And I think you do a fabulous job, whether it is now or whether it's through your videos. I hate videos. In cooking, I look for videos which are as short as possible. You know, the ones that go really quick. But your videos are the only ones that give me patience because the way you speak passionately about it and the love that you spread about food and cooking. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you very much. So
Lovely.
I'm just going to take a minute
Thank
here.
you.
Again, to stress on the point of the disruptive bit. So when we started making YouTube videos, there was this team that we got on board, very intelligent people who came from research, analytics, well-read, who spoke to us and told us that a YouTube video needs to be 3 to 5 minutes. People don't have the patience. And I honestly tried to speak less, shut up and do my job. And yet the videos wouldn't fit in those 5 minutes. And I ended up making one video, which is Nihari, which at that time was 16 minutes. The benchmark of YouTube was 5 minutes. And the team that we'd gotten on, they said, either this video goes up or we quit. I was like, no, this video goes up.
You do whatever you want.
So, so we had the entire team just quit. He said, this guy is illogical. He doesn't believe in logic. He doesn't believe in data. He doesn't believe in the pratyaksh ko praman wali baat hoti hai. It's right here. We're telling him, And today, the average length of a YouTube video on YouTube, not just me, is 15 minutes plus.
Wow.
So the case in the point is a lot of times, if you're not chasing, I did not know how many people would view the Nihari video. I was like, yaar, it's about my city. It just makes me happy. Yaar. Let's just put it. Yaar. When you change the game to not winning or losing, but just saying, yaar, it makes me happy. And I think it's just easier. It becomes easier to win. That's all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That is the answer to the videos being short.
Reflection. Absolutely.
Can I
Wonderful.
go
Thank you,
next?
Ranveer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ranveer, for the Nihari video, especially. I think 700 hits are from me only. And I've been very, very formal, prim last 2 days. So I want to close it with little shamelessness and say that, ask a very silly question to you. You are so successful. How good are you at maths?
See, I always say this to Punjabi, but I always joke about this to my dad, saying, "Rab ne bas ek hi changa kaam kita, jatta nu calculator deta hai." Which is God. So we are farmers, right? We are basically, so Jats are farmers. We are farmers in the background. So the
I'm
question
actually
was,
feeling like a disturbance today. Like you guys are asking the question and you have to answer. Anyway,
no, that's all right.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So we are farmers, right? So she asked, we are good at maths, and I said, the answer is every time me and my dad, I tell him, God only did one good thing, that he gave the calculator to us poor farmers. So that's essentially
I think
what
it sounded so much nicer in Hindi. Huh? Any day. Thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna take time for 2 more questions. So one is gonna be here. You have a mic. All right.
And I'm already audible.
So let's take 2 here and 1 here. Okay? Deal. All right. 1, 2, and 3. Yes. Go ahead, please.
So Ranveer, Sasri Akal. Glad, again, not just your cooking, I'm a big fan of your Punjabi tadkas. So we've been all talking about people, but I think one very important person in every individual's life is the individual himself or herself. So any tips that you like, and I think probably in the race that we are all in, the most neglected people around us is our own self. So any thoughts on it?
Well, very, very good question. I think very good question.
Punjabi jawab bhi chaluga.
So I'll try and answer it in a way where all of us get something out of it. We live in a world where everybody talks about self-love. We live in a world where everybody talks about loving yourself first and so on and so forth. So I what I have learned in life, and like I said, what I am telling you is a jacket. You could try it on. If you don't like it, put it back on the shelf. It's not an imposition. It's just something that I speak from my experiences. I think more than self-love, what we need for ourselves is to be secure about ourselves. Because once we are secure about ourselves as individuals, it just becomes easy to take ourselves not so seriously. The bigger challenge is that a lot of us sometimes, we just take ourselves too seriously. The ability to shrug yourself off and be comfortable with it. The ability to be so secure that you can just shrug yourself off and say, the ability to forgive yourself at the same time, be kind to yourself, and yet take yourself lightly. I think that is a relationship that one has to build with oneself. You can start with self-love, but it has to end up with a very secure sense of self-being. Secure to the point where you can just take yourself lightly. You can tell, yaar, main to apne aap ko kitna lightly leta hu yaar. Right? And I think that is my jacket that I'd like you to sort of wear, and if you like it, keep it. Otherwise, put it back on the rack.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you. And then I'm coming to you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So needless to say, big fan of yours. The whole family is big fan. My son, who's just turned 13, grew up watching your videos on Masterchef. He bought your course on Whistling. And he wants to be a chef. He launched a YouTube video, uploaded 7 videos, but then got distracted. So just want to know that as younger lot, 12 to 15 years age, dealing with a lot of distractions every day, what will be your advice to that younger lot when they want to follow their passion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I think the difference between how we grew up, and I take the liberty of saying we, for all the 40 plus who are here, the difference in how we grew up was that we had less choices, and hence we were blessed to have, I always say we were blessed to have less options. Because we weren't mature enough to handle a lot of options growing up as in the 80s. So for us, the fight was different. For us growing up, the fight was about chasing knowledge and information. Going to libraries, sitting there, figuring out. There was nothing called Google, asking people questions, taking notes. Knowledge was power. Right? Knowledge and information. In today's generation, there's an explosion of knowledge and information. I mean, we carry 50,000 libraries on our phone. Forget about sitting in one and pulling out your book. Today's fight for this generation is not about knowledge, but about discretion, but about wisdom on what to see and how much to see, what to choose. So I think they are evolved because we believed knowledge was the power, while the real power was always wisdom. They live in a world where they have to be wise to choose what part of knowledge they want to pick up and where do they want to apply it. When the options are too many, you need to be wise to choose. So I think that they will end up being a wiser lot. We might have ended up being a knowledgeable lot, but then the smartphone came and made us look like fools. But they will end up being a wiser lot, and I think logically it makes sense, and I'd like to respect the next generation for being wiser already.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Our last question, make it count. Go ahead.
Full pressure now.
So yeah, you are a good-looking person, boy, who knows how to cook. That's hot. That's
Nobody's ever told me that, huh? Nobody's ever told me that.
A good-looking guy who knows how to cook is very rare in India. So that's great. So, and I'm sure you would have a lot of distractions. Yeah. How do you keep yourself focused? Focused on your purpose, focused on what you like, and not get swayed by media, by doing something else.
I just think that by one is refusing to believe that you are successful. I have mastered the art of closing my eyes to the world around me. And I think that you need to have so much conviction that you just have to refuse that success exists, that you're successful. That's one, and it really works, trust me. I know it's taking it to the other extreme, but it really works. It frees you. It frees you of a lot of pressure that comes with success. Two, I think the ability to be kind and forgiving to yourself, to wake up the next morning and say, yeah, I know I should have done this yesterday, but it's all right. You know, being kind to yourself every morning, believing that today is a new day. And the third thing, I think, unfortunately or fortunately, we live in a world where definitions change every day. You know, so not being stuck up is basically a basic requirement to absorb and soak in today's world. You know, we live in a world where strategizing has become monthly, from annually to 5-yearly. You know, the window of visibility. It's like you're driving a car. I always say we live in a world, but we're driving a car, but the fog keeps increasing. Earlier, you could see the whole road, and you could just listen to music. Now, you see 10 meters. You navigate your 10 meters well, and you'll eventually get there, right? And I think that also means don't take it too seriously. Don't think about 5 kilometers. Just see, अगले 10 मीटर देख के गाड़ी चला लो बस. 10 देख के चलाते रहो, पहुंच जाओगे. That's essentially what it is for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I really couldn't think of a better way to close People Matters, Take HR than with you, Ranveer. A big, big round of applause for him. And I'm going to invite you to be here as part of our closing. I was just wondering, is there something coming? And you mentioned don't take it too serious. So are you ready to do something little funky? Because we are all popcorn after all. So are you ready?
Yeah.
You want to do it with us? Yeah. All right. So I will invite you. There are 5 things you need to do. We're going to do it together. And I'm going to invite you to stand up and leave your stuff. There's only this one newspaper, or you have more? Only one. Okay. Can we have one for Ranveer and one for myself as well? We're supposed to have more, but we'll manage with one. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So we were supposed to have 5 or 6, but you'll have to just work with me with one. So your hands should be free. If you have more than one, that's awesome, because it'll be more fun. But if you have one, then it's fine. All right. So there are 5 things we have to do. First one was stand up. Got it. Second one, can I see your papers? Everyone has one? Oh, awesome. Great. So that's number 2. Then number 3. And I think all of you know where I'm going with this. All right. And number 4, find a target. And please, not us. Huh? All right, that's not done. So there is somebody out there who you met, but in a fun way. Huh? And anyways, newspaper can't hurt. 4, find a target. Turn around. Find a target. And whenever you're ready, I'm counting 5. Don't do it yet. But you have to do number 3. Where are all your weapons? Can I see your weapons? Weapons of mass destruction. And you can't put anything inside, okay? That's not allowed. All right, so number 3 is done. Everyone, can I see everyone's weapons of mass destruction? All right. Number 4. Ready for number 4? I'm going to count 5. At the count of 5, go find your target, and not us. This side. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Awesome. Now, thank you very much. There is a number 5, which means go and pick up 1 paper. Everyone has 1 paper? Because as Ranveer was saying, I mean, it's all about having fun. But as we started, People Matters, Take HR, rethinking what's possible as we go through this new world is about having fun, but at the same time be responsible and mindful. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ranveer. Thank you so much. And we will see you all in People Matters, Take HR 2023.